Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Right, so today we're going to be talking about the Banquet event and the shortcomings of it. And I'll be completely honest, well, first of all, I got a little bit ill over the weekend and I needed a bit of a step back as well due to private reasons. But I'm a bit late with this video. Another thing why I didn't necessarily made it earlier is because at this point, I do kind of feel fairly discouraged to make, in my opinion, videos that are fair, but still are not necessarily positive about Kabam, because I can make many different videos about, different aspects of the game, new season announcements, and all stuff like that. And whenever I make a video criticizing Kabam for any, reason or issue, then there is an army of white knights people who just uninstall the game, don't play it if you don't like it, so on and so forth. And therefore, actually, despite what people think, I definitely pick and choose the critical videos that I do make of Kabam. That is not to say that I'm not breaking down, for instance, champions and give my honest opinions about them and stuff like that. But when it comes to, Kabam's mess-ups, or my thoughts and opinions about like a particular event overall, I more often than not have started to kind of hold myself back dissecting these things, because for whatever reason I generally do have that stigma associated with my channel that all I do is complain about Kabam, and it really is not the case, and I don't want it to be either. That said, this is quite widespread, and a large segment of community does feel like this event has not delivered. And therefore we do kind of need to break it down, because number one, well, Kabam themselves acknowledge that, that this is not delivering and they do want to improve. They particularly are talking about the Banquet crystals themselves and how they can't change them, because the Banquet crystals are disappointing. Let's face it. Very, very few pops out of those Banquet crystals feel like they are worth 300 units. And that is going to be like one of the biggest issues right here and right now, because we were floated. Well, first of all, it's about the hype levels, because when there's going to be a superior Banquet crystal, that automatically generates more expectation, and nailing events like Banquet often lands in the area in between managing the expectation and what's realistically possible for Kabam to do, because they can't make every superior Banquet crystal be half a Titan crystal inside or something, because they do have game economy, they do have think about longevity of the game and the game's balance, which, by the way, I don't think they're doing that great of a job with this either. But that aside, I think managing the expectations of the community prior to these events and during these events is like a fairly big deal. And let's face it again, regardless of how these events go and what Kabam does, there will always be people who complain. FOMO is a real thing, jealousy is a real thing, and we live at a time where anybody will complain about anything at any given time, and such is life. Kabam can release amazingly, insanely OP champions, and there will be a bunch of people who complain that if I don't get that champion, I'm screwed, which has a valid logic behind that. And if Kabam is going to release weak champions, which a lot of them were quite crappy this year, people are going to be like, well, what's the point? I'll get them when I get them, and I don't care to chase them. And it's boring, and I'm not interested in the game. So, regardless of what happens, well, Kabam makes these crystals OP. There will be a bunch of people complaining that now everybody has, 80 rank 3s in their decks, and I didn't have the units or money to spend, and I can't keep up. So, you can't please everybody. So Kabam's job, most of the time, is to try and please large enough segments of the community, including, the whales, of course. That said, it's clearly a miss this year. It is clearly a miss here, because they will first and foremost have had to do milestone additions. So the Realm event now included 3 more 7-star crystals than it did originally upon launch. Unfortunately, they kind of had to add it to the milestones that hadn't been earned, which kind of necessitates larger unit spend that many people, for instance, could achieve or would want to achieve or are capable of achieving, so they're going to feel like doubly missing out on things, which again I think is far from the ideal solution. Right. Well, let's get back to the expectations. So, existence superior Banquet crystal generated, kind of borderline expectation of value in each and every single one of these crystals. Because again, the overall stuff that you get for like 15k units in this event is not bad at all. You do get, for 15k units, you do get more than you did in Cyber Weekend's event and so on and so forth. I think quite literally the biggest problem here is that hardly any of the superior Banquet crystals that I have opened here seems like they are worth 300 units. Like almost none of them. We had this 50% figure floated around, where 50% of the crystal is, a filler, and 50% is, good stuff. Realistically, it's over 90% that's kind of a filler, because when we, again, take a look at these Banquet crystals, when you get tier 3 alpha, tier 6 class, tier 5 class, tier 6 basic, and even when it says tier 4 alpha catalyst fragments, if you get like 5,700 tier 4 alpha, that doesn't feel like it's worth 300 units. So like part of that goes into filler category. Tier 6 class catalyst fragments, everything I read up until here basically feels like filler. And then moving forwards, it says 7-star hero crystal shards. Well, getting 1,500 7-star hero crystal shards certainly is not worth 300 units in today's economy. And that's kind of the thing. When you take a look at everything here, then the grand jackpots are the Banquet prize, so 0.3%, 7-star trophy champion selector, so it would be 0.37%. 7-star Titan crystal, that would be great, 0.5%. 7-star Nexus hero crystal, there is 0.75%, 0.78%. 7-star limited edition, that's like 1%. So basically, when you're realistically talking about it here, less than 10% of it is actually worth it or feels like it is worth it. A great example here that somebody mentioned to me is, and again, this cannot be upscaled, but just as a point of reference is, if you spend 10 units a day, you get every day 7-star hero crystal shards, 150 of them. You do that for 30 days, that's 4,500 7-star shards. Again, it cannot be upscaled. It is kind of like a bonus item type thing. But, point being is, at any given time throughout the month, for instance, any month, you can spend 300 units a month, and you're gonna get 4,500 7-star shards. That is more and better than 90+% of the superior Banquet crystals. So there is a very, very good reason why these feel so disappointing, because they are. The vast majority of it is just random tier 6 class or basics, and it's far from a chase item. It's nothing people get excited for. And it's kind of bad. It really is. I don't even have a great fix to this either, because Kabam Crashed himself has pointed out that supercharging the greater Banquet crystals or superior Banquet crystals is not necessarily the answer either, because if you build the main prizes into the milestones, spread the value around more evenly, and you keep the whales from getting a huge windfall. If the crystals are absolutely lit, mega whales will get, basically insane amount of separation, which you kind of understand. And we deliberately included as much of the reward packages as we can in the events themselves. This year, everything in the SBC can be used in 7-star champion, so there shouldn't be anything in there that is completely useless. Yeah, it's useful, it's just that low value, useful. The crystals are never going to be the main focus of the rewards, because if they were, as why Edge correctly summarized, it would mean creating an enormous gap between the big spenders and everyone else. That is the reason why the superior banking results can't be crazy. It doesn't mean they couldn't have been better though. For instance, when it comes specifically to champion acquisition, let's say they times 10 all the rewards. If you pull Titan shards, you get minimum 10,000 Titan shards. If you pull 7-star shards, you get a minimum of 7-star crystal. What would be the end result? Well, the Mega Whales already have all the champions anyways, and they either do have most of those 7 stars at a very, very high sig, or, you know, they can get them to a very high sig if they want to with the 6-stone offers and 6 stones that they pull from the same crystal and so on and so forth. And at the same time, then, you know, the moderate group of participants would get a lot further on and would potentially be able to catch up to the whales more. So when it comes to specifically champion acquisition, I kind of want to call bullshit here, and that's another thing that I want to discuss. I think again, Kabam is kind of quite far away of what represents how much value and how the whales get away and stuff like that. Because again, for these mega whales who are now getting rank 4 champions already, that is much more significant than, you know, opening more 7-star crystals. Because they get all the new 7 stars anyways. They will continue to do so, and they probably have already. But for the moderate spenders, if the contents of these superior banquet crystals was, you know, in terms of champion acquisition, like 10 times better or higher, that would allow them to close in on the whales. I mean, that's just like a theory. Obviously, I'm not expecting Kabam to 10x the rewards at any given point, but it's just to show that, yeah, whales are gonna whale, and as long as they don't include a crap ton of like rank 4 materials, they're not gonna get much further away from the general population. They're just gonna have even shinier, even more high 6-7-star rosters. So missing that, I think, is quite big for Kabam, because this is like the third or fourth event where Kabam misplaces or misvalues things, especially in the eyes of community. And yet again, this is something that I completely feel like could and should be avoided with just kind of playing a go-through. Like, what I genuinely think is before every single one of these events, Kabam should, you know, contact 10, 20 random people from the communities, have them sign NDAs or something like that, you know, give them some reward, and have them test this and go through from different stages of the progression. Because there always seems to be something that Kabam overlooks. Like in a previous Banquet event, Kabam absolutely overlooked the value of those unique 7 stars. Which again, you know, getting a Diablo or Sandman is not as cool that Kabam thought it is going to be. And in this event, they kind of went, okay, we're going to make the milestones decent. There's going to be a realm event. We're going to leave the superior Banquet Crystal extremely underwhelming. What I think they didn't account for is that, well, if you're opening underwhelming crystals, you're going to feel that the event is underwhelming, and it's going to be quite depressing and frustrating experience, which immediately sours the event. That, coupled with the fact that I do think that they don't necessarily understand that most people do not care how many 7 stars whales get from this event, because they already have all the 7 stars. They care about how many 7 stars they can get, so they can rank up more newer, cooler champions that they didn't have before. I think a lot of these things are easy to say in hindsight, but I think Kabam is very bad at that. I think genuinely Kabam has been extremely awful at putting themselves into the player's shoes and going through a challenge, for instance, and going through an event. It's, be that cyber CCP challenges that came out like a while back now. It was a miserable process. Beyond anything else, be challenging or not challenging, what rewards are there, stuff like that. But several of those challenges were quite miserable. Like even now with the Necropolis challenges, there was one challenge that was just genuinely significantly more unpleasant than the others. It stuck out like a sore thumb. Like if the other challenges I was having quite a good time and enjoyed myself, then with the Dimensional Beings one, it was miserable. And anybody could have, any player could see that coming. Similar to the previous Banquet event and its downfalls, similar to current Banquet event and its downfalls. I just don't think what's the best way to put it? They cannot put themselves in the shoes of the player base. Of, let's say, relatively average player. Or even on the higher side. Let's say, relatively skilled player that's not a god at this game. Relatively committed player that's not a massive whale. I think Kabam is completely missing the boat with those people. And I think it is having dire consequences. And I think, again, it is showing itself in just about everything. With the champion design. When they're designing champions that need an encyclopedia memorization skills to remember how to use and extremely demanding, execution. Like, Enchantress. How many people can use Enchantress offensively properly? That can't be more than 100. Or these champions, again, that have extremely complex rotations but are just relatively shit. That is absolutely everything that people don't want to do. People want to have, like, straightforward, simple playstyles, that differentiate themselves. But you don't need 5 million abilities in a champion for a champion to be good. It's like, yeah. I think the biggest problem genuinely is Kabam's inability to view things through the lens of the player base. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all